Hey, okay, I want to bring you my testimony. This is why I am on fire for Christ. 2 years ago, I was living in sin. Okay, I I was running from God because I was bullheaded, and I wanted to do things my way. Bad idea. Um, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a crossroads in your life, but it is not fun. It is very, very scary. Um, I can honestly say that I felt God's wrath on this day, okay? He had been sending me signs, and, I was depressed. I was believing Satan's lies. That's why I kept running from God. Um, I was ashamed, but, I thought that I couldn't be good enough for God, to be loved. So I continued in this sin. Well, I got to the point where I was literally sick to my stomach. So I'm driving on the interstate, and I just, I'm angry, and I'm like, why do I have to do this? Why can't I do it this way? And I'm practically like questioning God. And then I just start crying, like I can feel I was being convicted. I don't know. I mean, I know that I had the Holy Spirit, but I don't think that I'm not really sure. Maybe it was God. I don't know. But okay, here, I'll explain to you. Anyways, I start bawling, and I'm crying, and I'm sobbing for like an hour while I'm driving, and I'm like, I'm sorry, God, please don't leave me. I felt this separation. You guys, in this 1 hour, it wasn't even a full hour, maybe 45 minutes, I felt like God had turned his head away because he could no longer look at me. I really felt that, you guys. I felt like he was saying, I've been trying to warn you and I've been telling you, but you're not paying attention to me, so I guess you're showing me your true heart, and, if you don't want me there anymore, then I'm not going to be there. And I really felt that. I know that's what was going on. Um, God is, the way he works is really smart. I mean, man, talk about fear. I was scared out of my mind. I was at the point where I would have done anything just to get God to look at me again. So I was crying, and I'm telling him, from my heart, God, just change me. I want to live. I don't want to die. I don't want to live in this sin anymore. And I knew that I had to walk away from that sin, but I was still bullheaded. Um, I didn't have the wisdom back then to ask God to know, to carry me through it. Like, I thought that I had to fight it on my own. So I didn't even ask him to do it for me. I was just like, I give up. I can't do it. I can't do this anymore. But please don't you leave me too. It was horrible. It was horrible. So then I spent a couple days, maybe 1 or 2 days after that, just listening to praise and worship, and just really thinking about the sin, and how much I wanted to quit, because I did, you guys. I really wanted to quit. Um, and I did. Well, then I was still crying and believing Satan's lies. He would tell me that I was nothing, that my husband didn't love me, that I wasn't good enough for my husband, that, my kids didn't love me, that my mom didn't love me, that my whole family was cursed because of me. Okay, first of all, my mom and dad raised us in a Christian home, okay, but a lot of things happened to us in this time. We moved around so much, like 10 different places or more. Um, we had a lot of deaths in the family. My parents were divorced, and they got remarried a couple times, so I mean, it was confusing. So then you have all of that on top of them teaching us the ways of the Lord. Well, it kind of contradicted each other. So I didn't really believe in love. I mean, I believed that I loved my husband and my children, but I didn't believe that I was capable of being loved. And I didn't really love myself. So maybe really, I don't know. Uh, but anyways, I'm upstairs, and I just got done listening to his to some praise and worship on my iPod, and nobody knew where I was. It was just me upstairs bawling, and you know, that thought ran through my mind. My husband. I'm not good enough for my husband. My life sucks. Blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, I hear God, like He's fighting for me. He says, He does. You are good enough. He does love you. And I'm just like, where'd that come from? That wasn't my thought. Because here I am feeling sorry for myself. Where did this thought come from? And then all of a sudden, I hear this other thought, and it says, oh, nobody's ever loved you, and nobody will ever will love you. And almost like I could feel them, God and Satan were like fighting for my soul right there. Like they really were, you guys. I felt it. um, it was pretty intense. So I had to decide which voice I was going to believe, and God's voice wasn't loud. It was soft. And I mean, when God speaks, He speaks. So you can't help but listen. So, I was like still crying, and then all of a sudden, this negative thought comes back in, and it says, your husband doesn't love you, and nobody loves you. And then all of a sudden, the Lord, says to me, He does love you, and He's coming to tell you that He loves you. And not even 2 seconds later, my husband comes upstairs, and and says, "What's wrong?" And then I walk downstairs, and then he's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And then he just picks me up and hugs me, and he says, "Don't you know? Don't you know you're loved? Don't you know I love you? Why don't you believe me when I tell you I love you?" You know? It's like, how did he know? So right then, I felt the Holy Spirit just like jump inside me. I really believe for the first time, like God really let the Spirit, His Spirit on me, and all of Satan's lies and deception was broke, like right there. It took years and years to break them walls. But right in that split second, God told me that I was loved, that I am of love, and I'm His child, and that my husband loved me, and and He told me, not an audible voice, but wisdom through the Spirit. He said, in order to love you for yourself, you need to forgive yourself. And you need to love yourself. And then forgive those who have hurt you. And then you can love them. And you know what? He was right. Well, anyway, so I'm up in this moment. I'm excited, but I can't explain it to my husband. So I rushed to the bathroom. I closed the door, and immediately I hit the ground. I hit the floor, just sobbing, wet, crying, and just feeling God's presence like I had never felt before in my life. And it was as if for the first time, I was crying happy tears. And I stood up, and it was so hard to stand up. I was on the floor for a long time because I was just like, wow, this is love. I've been missing out this whole time. Wow, it was like all my anger and everything was gone. I mean, like that. You guys, it was just like that. It was gone. And so I stood up, and I looked in the mirror, and then I started laughing, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I'm crying at the same time. And I'm looking in the mirror. And for the first time, God showed me who I was, how He saw me my whole life. That's the first time I saw myself with love. So, God's awesome, you guys. Ever since that day, I have had this hunger and this desire, and this was about 2 years ago. I have this hunger and desire to know more and more about Him, and I had so much darkness in me. That's why I want to tell everybody that they can be freed of it if they just listen to God and forgive themselves and forgive others, and that's the beginning of the road to healing. So yeah, just wanted to share that. It was pretty awesome, you guys. God's awesome. So praise Jesus.